Hey, this is Jennifer Murtland from the Real Estate Fight Club podcast. And on this episode of the Note Closer Show, we are going to talk about the tips that you need to know on how to work and find the best real estate agent.
This is the Note Closer Show, where you get the latest developments in distressed note investing and learn the secrets of how you can control millions of dollars worth of property for pennies on the dollar. Get educated and entertained by someone who has closed thousands of deals and lives to support you in achieving the same. Now, here's your host, CEO of We Close Notes, Scott Carson.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson, jacked up, caffeinated, ready to rock and roll with you today on this episode of the Note Closer Show. We've got a very special guest, somebody out of a market that we invest in quite a bit, a fellow investor who's also turned realtor, is a very successful realtor, a world traveler, a fellow foodie, and somebody who really has her pulse on one of the top markets that we spend a lot of time in. That's the Buckeye State, Ohio. Specifically the Cincinnati market. So we're honored to have this rock star who is just kicking ass and taking names. And she is a pleasure to talk with. I'm sure we'll have a few laughs on today's episode. But who am I talking about? I'm talking the amazing Jennifer Murtland. She, like I said, a Realtor Investor podcast. She is the co-host of the Real Estate Fight Club podcast. So check that out anywhere you listen to podcasts. But Jennifer, welcome to the Note Closer Show today.
Wow, I should have definitely taken a few extra shots of espresso before I got on the line. I should know better. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great. Feeling back to normal after a case of the flu or whatever like that.
We're glad you're not dead.
Yeah, exactly. It's always good to wake up in the morning not being dead, being 6 feet above ground.
Exactly.
It's a beauty thing. But you've really got your pulse in the market there. And you and I were talking beforehand. And I was honored to be on your podcast a few weeks back, and
that was pretty fun. Like it's an interesting. I mean, you and I have a passion about like leveraging your income, passive income, whatever you want to call it. And I think notes where there's a lot of myths around buying in notes. So I was glad you were able to come on and clear that up.
Yeah, and you know, there's always that thing when people think you're talking about notes, you're thinking about owner financing. That's roughly it. Mm-hmm. You know, and I wanted to bring you on because obviously as this thing comes out the end of December or the beginning of January with our production schedule, you know, a lot of people are setting goals for the new year, what they want to do, investing in real estate, or they're reevaluating their market. You know, we're seeing an crazy market out there. Especially on the retail side of things, where you see a lot of these iBuyers or like Zillow canceling contracts or these other companies out there.
I mean, they're not only canceling contracts, like it's like $1 billion or plus worth of contracts. That's insanity.
Yeah. And it just tells you, I think it really goes to show why it's so important to really have somebody to work with. I mean, a lot of those, I guess you could say the gurus out there you can do real estate without a realtor. What do you need them for? And I'm like, no, you need to have somebody who knows what the heck they're doing, who is knowing what's going on in the market.
Right.
Versus trying to do, like, when you try to do it all yourself, you end up looking like what's the word we look for? Like a natty light can for a shower head, like we've seen on your.
Exactly. I think though, I mean, to your point, if you're going to have a terrible realtor, I mean, then the chances are, like, unfortunately, a lot of my colleagues are not good. But like, if you're going to have a terrible realtor, you're better off doing it yourself. Right, but a good realtor, I mean, the 10% of us that are very good at our jobs, like, yeah, get one of those.
So you're not giving a lot of love out there. 90% of realtors are bad. How do you find? Let's. This sounds like the name of the podcast episode now. How do you find that 10%? Realtor who knows what the heck they're doing, who's going to help you out and be an asset to your business?
I know. I'm probably going to get in trouble with the National Association of Realtors, but not my first time, so that's okay. Okay, so how do you find a good realtor that can really help you? So we get a lot of these calls that are like from brand new investors, and in the classes, they're like, hey guys, find your power team, like go find a realtor. And then they call, right? You can always tell those people. But on the other side, as an investor, you can tell a new realtor too.
Right.
So if you're an investor and you're looking to invest in real estate, you've got to find an agent that when they talk, they seem like they know what the hell they're doing. Like they understand what investors do. They understand what wholesaling is. They realize wholesaling is not illegal. Like they have a process for finding off-market stuff. They have a pro forma that they use to verify properties. I mean, you can tell.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. The big red flag is, hey, I'm a new investor. I want to write 20 contracts. Don't waste your time for an hour and blasting out 20 contracts.
Not my time, Scott.
Yeah, exactly. But we still see that to this day. We still see that where like people are like, oh yeah, get a realtor, just flood the market with 20 offers. And it's a different, it's such a competitive market. That shit doesn't work anymore. You really have to do your due diligence. You really gotta know what's going on and have some type of pro forma, you said, or some sort of, I guess you say.
Well, and hone in your process. Yeah. So like, we want to know if you're interviewing an agent, like how many investors do you currently work with? Where are you finding, depending on what your strategy is, maybe in Cincinnati, we have a more solid buy and hold strategy, but it's a little bit low return than when compared to like 2008, 2010, you know what I mean? But it's better than the fix and flips right now. We just don't have the spread here. I don't know. Does any market have the spread right now?
We don't see a lot of that. I mean, that's the thing is the fix and flippers are the guys and gals that are trying to buy REOs or want to be an REO buyer. They're hoping to get discounts. And that's what I tell people, like, listen, it's not the same market. You've got to evolve.
No.
Yeah. And that's, you've got to go into that buy and hold model. If you're buying closer to retail or market value, that's really where you got to look at things. That's where you've got to have your systems down. That's where you don't over rehab properties, which we all know a lot of new investors will do that.
Yes.
Like they're going to move into it. I'm like, that's a kiss of death right there.
Well, and you can also look at like the pictures and stuff and say, what is the estimate that we think that this is going to take to get up to the rent that we want it? And like, I can look at a property and say, this is what it will rent for. And if the agent doesn't have an idea because they don't really do rentals, it's not the right agent for you.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the thing. They've got to know what you're speaking. So I think the myth of that, hey, if an agent tells you they're good at both residential and commercial, they're not good at either, right?
Probably. That's true. That's very, very true.
And people always ask, well, Scott, a lot of our students are investing out of state. They're in Texas or they're in a state that doesn't have a lot of distressed debt or market. They're looking at notes or properties out of state. And they're looking for somebody to pull a value, maybe a quick CMA, not do a full blown BPO. But what are some things that people could say or discuss trying to get somebody to help them out with it, pulling some initial values?
That's a good question because that's like a hard thing, right? Because the way that real estate agents earn money is by commission. So I think like I don't know. You can guess. It's not hard to pull a CMA, but you can also do an automated value a lot of ways. It's like online, you can pull stuff. But you do have to get in a relationship. Like I have a few investors that I do work with that if they ask me, can I pull this value? Like I'll do it because when they do buy, like they pull me in. Even if they buy off market stuff, they pull me in. But I've had a long relationship with them. That's a tough question, Scott.
And that's the thing is we look at an appraisal is going to be $400. An external appraisal is going to run you somewhere between 125, 185. Yeah. Ask the realtor to spend a little bit of time to do it. I'm glad to pay $50 for 20 minutes of time if they'll jump online, give me a valuation, and if it's easy for them to drive by and give me a photo, making sure that the photo matches up with the online valuation. I mean. One of the greatest tools that I think that people forget about is the real property reports that NAR offers, the NAR RPR reports that are free.
Yeah, those are free. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to get the free ones. The thing about like paying, I had thought about that too, paying the agent because they used to pay for BPOs back in the day. But it depends on how many you're doing, right? And if you have an agent that's willing to jump up for $50 and run around town, are they when I work, I make $300 an hour. So that $50 is not that enticing. Right. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, totally. So it kind of depends. So like, are the values that they're pulling, actually going to be the value of the property, because I'm not sure that they're actually working day to day in the business. You know, you're better off like befriending an agent, but you have to be honest with yourself, right? Like, am I willing to pull the trigger? What am I looking for? Because if you tell me, hey, I'm looking for a buy and hold, I want a 15% return on my investment, and here's the house, I'll be like, no. I mean, that's not happening. I don't even have to go out there. Like, it's not happening. There's no way. You know what I mean?
I love this. See, this is the you speaketh the truth.
It gets you in trouble.
That's
the problem.
But that's here's the one thing. I think a lot of people, when they hear honesty from people, they want to overrule it.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, you're talking to somebody who's got experience, who's boots on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
You took a class from somebody hundreds of miles away who's not investing in that market.
Who wrote the class 20 years ago.
Yeah, and they haven't bought it. You know, that's different. Somebody's buying real estate in a specific market.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're taking a class from somebody in a local market that's actually flipping, versus a lot of these, I guess you say, traveling circuses. You know, from HGTV or hey, show up. You know, or you know, Than Merrill's. You know, coming to Austin, we're going to show you how to fix and flip houses in Austin. Like, doesn't
no,
work.
You're not. Yeah. Well, and I think you have to almost be willing, like, to if it's your first time investing, you've got to be willing to understand that, like, you're gonna make mistakes, and just make the mistakes really quickly. And I know it's expensive, and try to mitigate that loss, but like, maybe you're not looking for, what's the average? I mean, the average return on investment in Cincinnati on a buy and hold is like 6 to 8%. I mean, if you get 8%, like, that's pretty good. It's just not that high. So it's like, okay, well, be honest with yourself. And if you, just because you're practicing too, you know?
Well, that's the thing, is you have to know the markets. And that's, if you can see a 6 to 8% based on it. And that's why I like the note business, is because we're often taking over assets a lot cheaper than retail buyers. And so that the possibility exists for us to make a double-digit return, whether they're getting them back on track and a modification, or we get a deed loan, take the property back.
Well, and I've been telling people that too. I'm like, you might, if you want higher returns, you have to look at other vehicles, because buy and hold is not doing it. There's hardly any fix and flips with that kind of spread. You know, look at notes, there's REITs you can do. I mean, you can do better in the stock market right now. Like, Now, I like to ask you, I'm glad you brought this up, because with your background, being in a wholesaling side, being in the short sale side, are you seeing, with the market being like where it's at, are you seeing an increase in short sales or distressed listings in your neck? I haven't seen it yet. I know it's coming. I don't think, because I started wholesaling right in like 2008 and 2009, when short sales were like, I mean, they were huge back then. So we were wholesaling short sales before I became a real estate agent. I'm not seeing them, but I know they're coming. I just don't know what the extent's going to be. And I doubt that it won't be the extent as it was before, because people are not underwater.
Right.
So the short sale is going to be a little bit different.
We see a lot of those.
It wouldn't be a short. Huh?
Well, exactly. It's more basically a discounted settlement, a little bit, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things that we're seeing pop up across the country is in new home builds, where people get in and the taxes aren't calculated initially on the right side, because it's still based on the raw land or the lot versus the improvements.
Right.
You know, they get that nice $4,000 bill, you know, after they've been into it and they didn't budget for that. Yeah, exactly. You know, you see a lot of that. Hey, $500 down, get in, or $1,000 down, get in. On a lot of these new home build communities that we see popping.
Yeah, well, that's why you also need a realtor when you do that, because a good realtor and a good lender is going to be like, yeah, well, what are the taxes going to be later? Like, let's, but you know what? If everybody thinks that there are going to be short sales and foreclosures, the issue is going to be that they'll have no place to live. And so this is where, if you do want to buy and hold strategy, the rents are really high right now, but I don't actually see them going down. I don't know how it would be possible, because if all the iBuyers who were holding for rentals are selling, and you know what I mean? And we're going to have more tenants in the pool looking for houses, that will keep rents high.
Mm-hmm. Well, we see that happening, not just in like San Francisco and Austin, where that middle class is really getting squeezed out.
Yeah.
You know, they don't want to move into something small, but if they sell their house now, they can't buy anything to move into. That makes sense. And that's why you're seeing the transitions from the West Coast people moving to Austin or people moving from San Francisco to Vegas, or Reno is a booming market because it's much more affordable in a lot of cases out there. And, you look at in your market too, Ohio, I mean, you've got Cincinnati and Columbus, really, I guess I would say the two brightest stars of the state, but you see a lot of activity in Toledo and Canton and some of the other areas.
But it could be a good opportunity. The hard money lending or if you were like a little bit flexible, like if you were doing kind of like owner financing or hard money to people who can't get loans, then you can get a higher return on your investment. I mean, it's kind of a weird thing, because if interest rates stay really low, it's going to be really hard to ask for like 10, 12%, but we're assuming that interest rates are going to go up, right? And if interest rates go up and they can't find a place to buy and the rent is too high, there's an opportunity there for people if you have cash.
Mm-hmm. Well, then you also look at those that can't qualify. You shouldn't give somebody a 3% loan if they can't qualify for the bank. I mean, if you're being a bank, being at 8 and 9, 10%, if somebody's got a sizable down payment and they've got challenged credit, or they've got a challenge, self-employed, or they don't have the 2 years of income statements to qualify for
that cash, but you don't really want to know where it came from. Like,
we're not talking like narcos here. Come on now. All right. People showing up with boxes, a suitcase of cash. What kind of work are you really doing there?
Does it matter? Does it matter? That's what I'm just kidding. Of course it does. But it actually makes me think of another point too. So there are a lot of realtors out there that also do property management. So I would make sure, because like you said, if you're a residential agent or you're a commercial agent, you're one or the other, you're usually not both, or you don't do both very well. I think the same holds true for real estate agents that are also property managers. You're one or the other, and you're better at one or the other. You're not great at both. And it's real difficult to find a good property manager. But it's easier to find a good realtor than a good property manager, if you can believe that.
Yes. Well, that's because a lot of times property managers, if they're not good, it's not their full-time bag. It's a part-time thing, and it's just part-time activity to it. So they're not the most aggressive when it comes to evictions, or sending out those 5-day notices, or really targeting the people because they're busy running around doing other things versus showing up and knocking on the door on the third, like, hey,
exactly. Right. Exactly. So I would probably separate that out if you're going to be looking to buy and hold, have a property manager separate from the realtor.
Yeah, it's definitely important. Now, you're also licensed in Kentucky, correct?
Yeah.
So how is that market? How's Kentucky different from Ohio for you? Do you see a lot of differences when it comes to activity, price points, and stuff like that?
Yeah. So in Kentucky, it kind of depends on what you want. So a Kentucky buyer can get something better closer to the city than you can in Cincinnati, which is nice. It's a little bit cheaper to live in Kentucky from a tax standpoint. And I mean, if you want like a new construction, like I have people all the time, they want to be in Ohio, but they want to be like close to the city. I'm like, we need to look at Kentucky, because you can get a brand new house, a brand new build for a lot better and cheaper. And you'll have to go pretty far out in Cincinnati to get that.
Right. Well, that's good to know for the folks out there that are looking at, because that area is growing. It is growing. But
like literally from my house, downtown Cincinnati, I can walk to Kentucky.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Do they have the banjos at the state line?
You have to take your shoes off.
No offense to any of our Kentucky family listening out there. We like Kentucky. It's okay. We don't buy a lot of debt there because we got some weird stipulations when it comes to buying debt in Kentucky.
That's weird.
If they charge they want you to have a $500,000 personal bond or $1 million bond.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bit of an extreme thing. It's one of the few states that requires that.
That's weird. But the other thing that I was thinking too is, like, if you are going to buy and hold, knowing the eviction process, each county is different here in Cincinnati, and some counties are better than other. Like, there are certain counties in Cincinnati I will not buy property in because their eviction proceedings are like, they drag out so long. Yeah. And then there's certain counties where it's like landlord friendly, and it's like, once they don't pay, you get your house back like in a minute.
What are some of those counties that you like and the ones that you dislike?
I like Hamilton County and Warren County, and then I dislike Claremont County.
A little corrupt, like Crook County over in Chicago?
I don't think so. It's not corrupt. It's just like, I mean, I don't know, maybe it is, but like their rules are just different. Like they give the tenant like so long to stay, and it's like they haven't paid. Like I need my place back. You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen that. I mean, when we bought a lot of contract for deeds in Ohio. Ohio, to evict on a contract for deed can take a little while. It's almost like foreclosing. It takes 6 to 9 months to do that. But it all comes down to the communication with the borrower. Hey, what do you sometimes it's easier to grease the wheels by giving them a check to walk away. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It depends. But you make a good point. I think like if you're honest with yourself and you want to invest in real estate in some way, I mean, I've literally had this conversation at least 4 times in the last 10 days. It's like, I know you and you are not somebody who's going to go knock on a door and be like, yo, you owe me money. I'm gonna, and you're not going to pull the trigger on the eviction. And if like that is not you, you should not buy rentals. Like you got to look at, and if you're not a type of person that can like fix anything, or you don't have connections, or you only plan on buying like one, like you've got to look at other vehicles, like notes or whatever, something else.
Or lending passively through a fund or a hard money fund or stuff like that.
Something else where it's like hands off. But that's all about being really honest with yourself, and like, what am I really gonna do?
You look at, let's talk about some of those bigger firms that have realized that this is not what we should have been doing.
Exactly.
The Zillow, the Redfins, or not, I don't think Redfin had too much, but a lot of the iBuyers, Zillow being the biggest one, $400 billion in contract cancellation, stuff like that, or $565 million loss.
Yeah, it's insane, the loss that they're taking. And I wonder how they got like, they just weren't paying attention, I guess. I don't know. Like, how do you get in that much trouble?
Well, they overpay thinking that they've got cheaper money. They overpaid because they've got funding. But then I think the biggest thing is they did not expect the cost of rehab, the cost of materials to increase quite a bit. And I think they got hammered by delays with evictions and foreclosure moratoriums as well in a lot of cases for, getting the ball rolling. I think they're buying retail most of it, but when you're overpaying and then the market turns,
you're screwed.
Yeah, their numbers, it's going to keep going up. It's going to keep going up. And I think they saw it. I mean,
everybody knew they were overpaying. I mean, at least we did, because every deal, it was like, okay, you have this buyer or you have the iBuyer who's paying you more and they say they're giving you cash. Like, shit, you should just take that. Like, why wouldn't you? But it's like, how are they keep doing that? Like, how can they keep overpaying for stuff? You can't. That eventually falls. And I would hate to lose $500 million.
Yeah, but the opportunity of that comes in pretty well. Are you seeing some of those back on the market?
Oh yeah, and they're dropping their prices too.
Yeah, well, it almost make me think it might be good to reach out to and say, hey, we'll take these off your hands and help you avoid your loss. We'll just carry financing for a year. You know what I mean?
Maybe.
Carry financing and turn them. That also brings me to a point. Are you seeing a lot of you may not subject to deals are starting to get a lot more popular with people coming into the markets or getting out of houses that they got great interest rates, but they've got to move or they can't afford the payments or going through.
I've seen a lot of those come up recently. I think, I haven't seen a lot of them. I did see more back in the day, but we're pretty conservative and people get nervous.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. It's it's a marketing play you've got to look at if that's what you're to look at. But you got to have your disclosures. You got to have people.
Everything. Well, especially I see a lot of investors too consider like getting their real estate license. I don't know. I mean, it depends on who you are, but I don't usually recommend it because then you have like so much extra disclosures and all these things, and I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it. The fees are pretty high to be a realtor. And
you got your annual dues to the MLS, and what other fees do you have involved with that?
You have local, state, and national dues. And it's just like, for what reason? So you can pull comps? Like, that seems ridiculous. Why don't just be a realtor's like assistant and get an assistant login? There
you go.
I don't know if you're allowed to do that. Don't tell on me. But like,
I was gonna say, are you offering that to folks out there in the Cincinnati area?
Not offering that. But this is why you got to get in a relationship, right? So like, and And you really think about it, like, what is the purpose of getting the license? Like, just so you can sell your own properties? That's also not a good idea, right? Because you, as an investor, and me as a real estate agent, I've sold so many more properties than you representing a client. You should never represent yourself or your LLC. You will not get the most amount of money for the property. You will end up giving stuff away, or you'll do something wrong and you'll lose a bunch of money.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have that, arm's length transaction a little bit. Let somebody else be the filter. It takes the emotion out of it a lot of cases. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, what are you investing in? I mean, you've got the background.
Buy and hold, girl.
There you go. Okay.
I love it.
Is there a rent base that you look at with buy and hold, like a floor? Yeah. Like I've got a buddy in Columbus who says anything below $600 is like a 2-gun alley. You can make money at it, but you got to go 2 guns. Is there a rent floor that you like to look at in Cincinnati that you won't even look at?
Yeah, and it's higher than that. So I like to rent to tenants that are like similar to me, like normal people, like they've got good jobs, they understand how to, if there's a problem, they know how to communicate, they're reasonable people. Most of my tenants were like past clients or future clients. So I like that, like 1,200 to 1,700. They hardly give me any problems. It's perfect. Plus I like to travel. So if I'm in Asia, it's, a 12-hour difference there. If I'm in Asia, I don't want to have to be taken, and I manage my own properties. I don't want to have to be taking calls. So I get in there, I renovate them, I put somebody in there. They usually stay for a while and it's all gravy.
Good stuff.
It's a lower return than like the war zones, right? But my headache, I don't have a headache.
Yeah, or risk getting shot at, like I've been shot at before in walking through different properties. That's
you don't want to get shot at.
Yeah, no.
No,
not at all.
Well, I used to own a property management company, and we managed over 180 rentals. 90% of them were like subsidized or low income. And it was just like such a nightmare. Like, I mean, yeah, we could probably all write books, right? About the things that we've seen and heard and done and like whatever, right? But yeah, I was like, I want to travel. I want it to be easy. I don't want a headache. I'm in it for the long haul. Let me just get my, 6-7% return and not have a headache and call it a day. And then we offered to the tenants on the back end, like, hey, if you end up buying a house and you use us as your realtors, and I just have them use one of my partners, use us as your realtors, then we won't worry about the actual end date of your lease contract. So that's worked out pretty good.
That's a very great clause to have in there. If you use us as an agent, that avoids you with that cringe when you find out your tenants are moving out because they bought a property.
Oh my God, I'd be pissed. But I make them stay for at least 6 months. So you have to be in there at least 6 months, and then you can buy, but whatever. Yeah.
Right. You're probably seeing them stay a lot longer than a year, though, especially a lot longer.
They a lot longer. They stay years, and then they do use us. I've only had one person not use us, and it was super weird, but he was weird. So whatever. Everybody else uses us.
You said something there, and I want to come back to it. You enjoying traveling. You've been to over 17, 18, 19 different countries out there. Is that correct?
I went to 17 in 1 year.
Very nice.
Yeah, so I've been to a lot.
Been a lot. But you said something about, hey, you found your lane. You really found what you like to do, what you focus on. Yeah. I think that's so important. And I think so many investors and people looking at real estate, they get the idea of being a jack of all trades. I'm going to do this, and this, and this.
No.
And you're never going to be a master of any of those. You've found your lane. You're happy with where you're at. You've got, you avoid I guess you could say the nightmares of the one-off kind of craziness, huh?
Exactly. I mean, because I was a lot more diversified in where my properties were, but now I'm like, I know what to expect from this tenant base in these parts of town. Like there's 3 parts of town that I like to work in, and like, I know how much the houses cost. I know what I'm getting. I know what the tenants are. Like, it's a rinse and repeat. And that's what we do. Like, this is what I can offer. You can either take it or not take it. I don't really care. And here we are. We move on.
Systemize your life and you'll be a lot happier versus being
Yeah, because once you make once you make enough mistakes, you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm not going to deal with that again. Like, here's where I want to stay. But again, back to our point in the beginning, if you're brand new investor, like you have got to make mistakes and make them fast and make them often and get them out of the way, and then really learn and figure out what works for you, because you don't know what's going to work until you try it. Right?
Well, that brings a good point. Did you have a mentor when you were starting out, somebody that helped coach you, or you figured it out yourself, or what?
I'm more of a like jump and then check to see if I even packed the parachute type person. Literally, when I was a little kid, I would make my mom go to all the open houses. Like, we were in San Francisco and I was like, Mom, I pulled out the paper, because this is like, the 90s. You pull out the paper and I was like, Mom, I want to go to these open houses. And she was like, you're such a weird little kid. And I was like, I love houses. And I just love, like, I like revitalizing them. You know what I mean? And like fixing them and stuff. But I don't do that in my business because it's too much money and the return is not there for that type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, what was your question? Oh, what was your question?
Do you have a mentor? Somebody helped coach you along when you were getting
Oh yeah. So no, we just like kind of just tried it and did it. And I was like, oh, I don't like that. That doesn't work. Let's do something else. But my mom did help me. So she was like the processor of the short sales. And then we used her IRA to buy some of the first properties. So that was pretty exciting. I messed up with her money.
Hey, Mom, I'm taking care of paying you back on you. We're going to use
Sorry,
your
Mom. Sorry, Mom. No, she's good now. I got her straightened away.
Well, but that's it's great to have that. You've been an investor for what? How many years now? 15, 20? Been a realtor for how long now?
No, I've been an investor for about almost 15, yeah, and then a realtor for about 11.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, you've been through a trend, because we had the crazy trend there, and that's the thing I always crack up as is you want to work with somebody who's been through an up and a down market, not somebody who just signed up 6 weeks ago or has never been through a downtrend. I mean, we saw that happen here in Austin. We had like 12,000 realtors before the crash. And then after the crash, there was like 3,500.
Yeah, right? I know. That's awesome. I wish we could cleanse again. Well, purge. I'm running, the purge, right? I'm creating a position called the Czaress of real estate of the world. So y'all can vote for me and I'll purge. And we'll have an investor. They'll have their own license, like the investor only real estate agents. And then you'll know exactly who to go to.
That's actually not a bad idea. That would give NAR something to add as another due.
Right, exactly. Well, we're getting rid of NAR.
Well, but you get what I'm saying, the little initials to put on the back end of your thing, investor qualified.
Yeah, but not because you took like one class and they were like, here's how you work with investors. They don't know.
You actually closed on some deals. You got some HUDs to show some stuff. You got some deeds exchange, right?
And it's renewable every year. And if you don't close on deals annually, enough deals, then you don't get the designation.
I love that. I think that should be a philosophy out there, because there's enough, I hate to say this, douchepreneurs running around, peddling stuff that they haven't closed on, no matter what it is. It's something that they did 2-3 years ago and we just don't see it. And enough people will watch. And I only say this because that's what kind of got me rock and rolling, was the HGTVs, the Flip This Houses originally back in the day.
I ban everybody that I work with from watching those shows while we're working together. They're so unrealistic.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. Like, it's not what happens.
Not at all what happens.
What really happens. The contractors don't show up. It's 30% more than they said. Everybody's like, budget 10% more. No, budget 30% more. Like, they'll find stuff that they didn't see. You don't know what you're doing, and we can smell it. We can smell that. The first sentence out of your mouth, I know if you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, there's the thing, inspections like subflooring, that doesn't pop up when people are walking around a lot of times, or other things, it's just people, and we're not trying to scare anybody by any means of the imagination. If you're interested and make sure to work with somebody who's a qualified expert, not somebody who's got less experience than you do.
Right.
But find somebody out there.
But it is going to be hard on your first one, right? Because you have to earn the right and you have to earn the respect. So your first one, you're going to pay more. You're going to pay more in repairs. You're going to pay more to acquire the property. Like, you're just going to pay more because you haven't done anything. Nobody knows who you are. And then after that, then you can, I've been working with my contractor for more than 10 years. So we understand each other. We know what we're doing. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just have to earn that. You're not just given it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, does he show up every time on time?
He does. Yeah. He's the best.
Well, that's a rarity. That's why you kept working with him for 10 years.
Look, I always say you get 2 of the 3 things on contractors. You either get really good communication, you get really good work, or you get really good pricing. And the good communication is like showing up on time. So which of the 3, like, do you want? Which of the 2? You only get 2 of those 3. That's it. So you got to pick. Yeah. And in the beginning, you're paying.
You're kissing some frogs to figure things out. But that's also why it's very important to, I think, you're starting off, make sure you surround yourself with folks, join a local real estate investment group, talk with people there who are rehabbing, talk with people that are actually doing the things that you're trying to do, and pick their brains. I mean, I think most of the people that have been there.
But don't you think though, like before you pick their brains, like really find out what have they actually done?
Yes.
Like, what are you actually working on like now? What did you actually do in the last year?
Yep.
And then pick their brain if they've done anything. Because a lot of people at a lot of these groups have a lot of theories and they've been to a lot of classes.
But they're not pulling the trigger. They're like an educated brain surgeon who's never gone into surgery.
Right, exactly. Who would you rather have operating on you?
Somebody who's done a lot of surgeries, not somebody who's who's going to pull out the book. Okay.
Right. Exactly.
Good times. Jennifer, what's a goal that you've set for yourself for the new year? I know 2022 is just around the bend. 2021's been an interesting year. 2020 was a crapshoot for a lot of people. What's a big goal?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I bought some properties. So I've actually reached my goal for the amount of properties I wanted to acquire and the income from those properties. So I'm very excited about that. I just reached that this year. Thank you very much. So I'm looking at diversifying my investments this year into like notes or REITs or angel investing or something like that. So that's a goal I'm working on this year. It's like,
awesome.
Okay, what else can I get into? I tried the not Bitcoin, but I bought Ethereum.
Yeah.
Bought Ethereum and I made 50% more in like 3 months. I was like, I'm pulling that shit out. I don't know anything about Bitcoin or Ethereum, but like, hey, wait, that's good. That's a good return.
That's like gambling in Vegas. The house usually wins in that. It's usually not the investors in a lot of cases.
I know.
But that's that you brought up. You said something there. If you're going to invest in something, you should learn everything you can about what you're investing in.
You should remember what I said. I don't ever do that. I just like try stuff, but I also know when to pull out, right? And I'm like, this seems pretty high. I don't know anything about it, but a 50% return on my money in 3 months makes me very happy. So I'm just going to pull my money out and call it a day. Now it did go up, right? But if it would have went down, I would have been like kicking myself to be like, just pull your money out and go.
Yeah. Somewhere Kenny Rogers is singing a song. You got to know when to hold them.
Exactly.
When to fold them.
Exactly.
Know when to walk away and know when to run.
But yeah, I'm happy with the 50% return. I'll take that every day.
Yeah. And then on the properties that you've bought, that you said that you're fixing these up and turning them into rentals, long-term rentals for cash flow for the most part.
They're all rentals. Yeah. So I like that. I will eventually get into, I've done some owner financing stuff and I do like doing that. And so I'll probably get into like some of that stuff, more of like the hard money side of it, right. Where it's like, okay, yeah, like we talked about, like I'll lend to you if you can't get a loan, but a specific population, not like anybody, you know.
Right. So are you saying you're gonna be profiling people? Is that what you just said?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, probably more so on the short-term hard money side of things, with a higher return there for you, and in and out of projects probably for a little.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Profiling them financially.
There you go. Well, that's what lenders do. That's what we should be doing.
Exactly. Like, here's what I want. Can you do that?
Exactly. Now, Jennifer, do you mind people that are knowledgeable and actually know what the hell they're doing to reach out to you, to ask for advice, ask for?
That's fine. Opinion? I really don't mind. I know I sound kind of mean, but I'm just, honest. Like,
honesty is not mean. People say that all the time. Like, Scott, you're mean. I'm like, I'm telling them what they need to hear. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and blow. I'm not going to waste their time or waste my time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. It doesn't help anybody, right? But yeah, I'm happy to help any in Cincinnati, in Northern Kentucky, or depending on what you want to do, I can direct you to the right people. The best way is you could just call or text me, which is 513-400-1691.
Perfect. And then they can also contact you by going to jennifermurtland.com with all your social there too, correct?
Yeah, everything is there. I'm pretty
Perfect.
easy to find.
Yeah, she is.
I'm not
And
trying
then-
to hide from you.
No, she's not, and that's a beautiful thing. And then also, guys and gals, check out the Real Estate Fight Club. It's a hilarious thing, and you have your co-host with that as well too. That's on there quite a bit with you, right?
Yeah, my co-host is Monica Weekly. It's her birthday today.
Oh, well, happy birthday, Monica.
Happy birthday, Monica. Yeah. So, yeah, so that's a pretty fun. It's for real estate agents, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah, I was listening to a couple episodes this week. It's cracking up, but on stuff like that. But that's a great thing. I don't think a lot of real estate agents understand the power of that branding side of things and helping investors or buyers get to know their agent with a podcast. I mean, I hate to say this, but we often find realtors are cheap when it comes to marketing themselves because they're broke most of the time. They don't understand the investment in marketing, right?
The average agent makes like $40,000 a year. Can you believe that? I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
They're selling like 5 houses. Like, what are you doing in a year?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if you only did your job 5 times a year? Don't use that realtor.
No. No, even if it's your spouse.
Don't use your spouse. Definitely don't use your spouse. But if you are a real estate agent, we actually are looking to partner with more agents, and we can help them like grow their business and all that. So reach out too.
Very good stuff there. Everybody, jennifermurtland.com, or reach out to her phone number. We'll have that below in the comments and the description there for you out there. Well, Jennifer, it has been a pleasure talking with you today. Look forward to sending some business your way, definitely, because it's one of the markets we're focused on, and look forward to your continued growth in the new year. All righty?
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks,
Sounds
Scott.
good. Thanks, Jennifer. All right, everybody. Hey, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Note Closers Show. If Cincinnati and Northern Kentucky is a market you're investing in, you need somebody who's solid and you're going to treat them with respect, like you want to be treated, reach out to Jennifer and talk to her. Otherwise, connect with her online. And make sure you hit the subscribe button to our episodes and hit that 5-star review as well. And check out her podcast too. But go out, take some action, buddy. And we'll see you all at the top, everybody. Bye.